We have 2 up for this office, and this one was a tough one because we only had one person submit any questions for the district clerk. The district clerk is not an office that a lot of people interact with daily, I wouldn't think.
Maybe not daily,
Yeah.
but when I looked at the numbers earlier today, with the amount of cases that we have pending per year, along with what our population is, actually 30% of our population interacts with the district clerk's office. So that's a lot of people.
And this is
sorry.
the incumbent, Gina Pasley, right? Is that? I'm always saying that name.
Pasley.
Okay.
Hey, that's what George says. He said it doesn't matter.
Okay. And she's the incumbent, and then we have her opponent, Joy Dennis. And so I'm going to let Gina introduce herself, and then we'll start from there.
I'm Gina Pasley. My husband and my children moved here. Well, I can't say children, child, because I didn't have Adler yet. We moved here about almost 18 years ago, and we've made our home here, and we really love Fisher County, and we care about everyone here and have met so many wonderful people over the years. I actually got hired in the district clerk's office in 2011, and I worked for Tammy Haley, and she trained me in the office, and when she decided to resign, I applied to be appointed. Our district judge had to, he didn't have to, he did due diligence, and he had interviewed many people, and then I was appointed as district clerk. Afterwards, we had to have a special election in which I had to run and had an opponent, and I was elected. And fortunately, I have not had an opponent since then, but I really love my job as district clerk. It's a very broad job. We have so many things that we do, which I can explain to you, and it changes all the time. But I get to interact with so many people in the community that it's gotten to the point to where almost everywhere I go, I know everybody. And I'm a very shy person. So I used to be very nervous everywhere, but now I'm like, I know everybody, which I actually don't know everybody in this room. But almost. So I do hope to continue as your district clerk. I don't know if at this time if you want me to list what I do in the office, but I enjoy being district clerk. So go ahead and say, okay. Well, in our office, I always tell people it's kind of like a step above county clerk as far as like the next step. Like if you go get your birth certificate, you come into our office if there's an adoption. When you get married, you go and get your marriage certificate at the county clerk's office. If there's a divorce or any other family issues, you come to our office. But we have felony cases, tax cases, like I said, divorce, adoption, family cases. We have receiverships. So if there's property in Fisher County and they bring in mineral money on that property and they cannot find the owners, they do bring me the money, and I have to take care of the money and make sure I pay all the taxes on the property until they can find the owners of the property. I also hold money in the registry for different cases. If there's money that the court orders must be held in the registry, I hold on to that. Many times it is for children, and we hold on to it until they are of age and they can get their money. I feel like I'm forgetting some of the types of cases. Maybe not. I've said it so many times recently while campaigning that it may feel like a shorter list than it used to. But we also have to take care of preservation, and we have to have everything ready for court for the judges. And I have 3 different judges on a weekly basis. We have the AG judge, we have the multi-county judge, and we have the district judge. I also work with the JP's office, the JP judge, and Judge Holt, because he has to help sign checks for the receivership and other cases such as those. I handle all the jury, so we have to prepare the lists, we have to mail out all the summons. We handle the whole process and help even on the day of the jury process, selecting all of the jurors. We take care of the jury the entire time they're in there. We also, okay.
I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt. The next is we have Joy Dennis, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Well, I am Joy Dennis. I moved to Fisher County in 2016. I moved out here to help my mother with my dad, and who he is now gone now, but my mom is still here. She's back there somewhere. There she is. And I help her as much as I possibly can with a full-time job and the other things that I've got going on, and her IT person, I guess. But when I moved out here, I interviewed with Judge Holt and tried many, many times, and I do have to thank Gina, because Gina helped me figure out when he was going to be there and when he wasn't going to be there, to interview with him. And eventually I started the end of May of 16, and I have been in his office ever since and learned so much about county government. I've never been involved in that before, but I have learned a ton about county government and what happens in the judge's office. I've had to help or ask questions in the district clerk's office before about different cases and things like that. We do have court of our own that we handle, the misdemeanors, and we take care of all of that and getting all the filings done and everything for that. So, and lots of admin work, lots and lots of admin work, and which is what a lot of the offices require up there. And I would hope to, in my run for district clerk, if I am elected for district clerk, I would like to have some really steady hours and everything, and just keep the office running smooth, and work for the people of Fisher County with what needs to be done.
Okay. Great introduction, ladies. Okay, we have, since we have an incumbent and an opponent, it's going to be a little bit different. We have one question specifically for each, and then 2 questions that you will both answer. So I'm going to go with Gina first, since she's the incumbent. And this, could you please, well, although she's kind of already done this a little bit, but please explain the district clerk's day-to-day responsibilities under Texas law, and how long, well, you've already answered that, how long you've served, and what specific accomplishments during your tenure are you most proud of?
Those are kind of hard to answer because on a day-to-day basis, I mean, I'm supposed to maintain all of the duties of the office in a timely manner, which I do. And we have the e-file system, so every day, several times a day, I check the e-file system. Used to, people would come in all the time. So whether someone comes into the office personally or uses the e-file system, we have to promptly respond to that and file cases, issue citations, subpoenas, warrants, whatever needs to be done. We make sure it's all organized, and we also stay on top of the judge's calendar so that we know when we have court and can have all the cases ready for the judge. Every day I have to check my emails all day long because I do communicate with each of my judges' offices on a daily basis and stay informed as to whether there are bonds or appointments of attorneys, I mean, many things. And then I also have to make sure, like I said before, we have to make sure we are preserving everything, and that includes, that isn't just our pending cases, because we always have at least 150 to 200 pending cases going on. So we have many people who call us, and we have to know what they're talking about, and we have to be able to take care of it. And honestly, I've been surprised at, I can have somebody call me from 7 years ago and I remember their case and I know exactly how it was left, and I can help them with it if they're reopening it or asking me a question about the status of something, or if they just need a copy of something that they lost the copy. I do have to provide certified copies to those who need it, and I always have to work hand in hand with OCA and stay on top of any regulations they have. We really had to, one thing I am proud of is how we handled COVID. COVID was a big mountain for everybody. trying to figure out how to handle everything, especially when you had people wanting to come in and handle all the older documents, because we have a lot of historical documents in our vault, and we have all the big books too, and making sure that everyone still has access and can still make sure their cases are processed and they don't stand stagnant on the shelves, which we do update the judges' offices with current reports as to which cases we do have in the office, and we try to make sure they know when there is activity on a case and nothing has taken place because maybe they didn't know somebody came in and filed something. But e-file has helped with that because the state put that in place, and they also made a website called Research Texas where people can go and they can access cases and get copies also. So that has helped too, as far as for people who are out of town. What were the other questions?
I think that was it.
Okay.
When their time hits, just say time. It's okay. I know. Joy, you ready? Please explain your understanding of what the district clerk does and how this office serves the courts and the public. What you would do differently than the current administration, and what experience prepares you for these duties.
What I understand that the district clerk does, a lot of what Gina has already gone through, and helping the district judge and the multi-county judge and the AG judge and keeping up with all the paperwork. They are the office of the filing for all of the district cases, for the receiverships, taking in the money, any tax notices and things go in there, so she knows what the taxes are going to be on there, so all of that can be paid through her office. And providing copies to the public that comes in that has lost their copies. And I know when there are landmen that come in, they come in and they look for land records and that type of thing in there to see who is the owners of them, so they can go through and do like their oil leases and that type of thing, if I'm not mistaken. But they're the record keeper for the county with all of those type of things and the historical records for some of that. The county clerk also does part of it, but district clerk does it too. And what was the next question? I'm sorry.
What would you do differently than the current administration, and what experiences prepares you for these duties?
Well, what I would do differently, just make sure that things are streamlined. I'm not saying that she doesn't do that, but just making sure that things are streamlined, having office hours that the public can depend on all through the year, and just bringing my experience with admin and being able to figure out problems and that type of thing, and just being a support to the judges and to the public. And as far as my experience, I've worked admin pretty much all my life, from working from, I would say, probably about 19, 20 years old. I have worked admin jobs in multiple different situations. I've worked for air conditioning distributors and for the service department, filing the warranties. I have worked for copier companies and scheduling service calls. Oh, I've done multiple different jobs in admin. I work for stock brokerage firms dealing with people's millions of dollars and doing different things like that. And I have also had my own company. Before I came here, I did have my own company where I had to plan who was going to what jobs, and the budgeting of all of that, and trying to keep my expenses down so we made money. And so I have, thank you.
So I'm going to have just one more question that both of y'all will answer, because you both have basically answered the other one.
That's what happens when we have talkers.
Y'all have both done so well. If someone in Fisher County gets served with divorce papers or gets pulled into a civil lawsuit, your office is one of the first places they turn for navigating the system, correct?
Yes.
How do you make sure that experience, especially for someone who's never dealt with courts before, isn't confusing or intimidating?
I actually have a little folder that I have set up that has every piece of information that they need. I also have information on my website that people can go to and easily access, and that way they know what to do, and it tells them step by step how it works, what steps you need to take to start out, if it costs any money or not, and how much, who they need to call, because if you're representing yourself, you have to call the judge's office, and it has the phone numbers. If there are children involved, you have to take a parenting course and get a parenting certificate. And then it tells you exactly how many days from the moment that you file that it will be before you have a hearing. I make sure that they understand everything on the piece of paper, and I make sure they take it with them so they know. I let them know if they need, well, I don't tell them if they need an attorney, but if they are not going to hire an attorney, I do let them know that there is a service that they can reach out to, West Texas Legal Aid, that can help them. And then we also have a website that they can go to where they can get information that is made by the state, that is texaslawhelp.org, that helps people who are representing themselves get the documents that they need, and the packets will walk you through the process. And then I always make sure they have my phone number and the phone number of the correct judge's office, depending on which judge they're going to have on the case. And I make sure that they can contact us, and we can help them if they are doing something on their own at home, like even using the e-filing system, and I'll walk them through the process over the telephone.
Nice. Joy, is there anything, do you want me to read it again?
Okay, yes.
If someone in Fisher County gets served with divorce papers or gets pulled into a civil lawsuit, your office would be one of the first places they'll turn to for help navigating the system. How would you make sure that experience, especially for someone who's never dealt with the courts before, isn't confusing or intimidating?
Well, once I learned what the process would be and what would have to be done on all of that, and being able to explain it to them, and I know that we cannot answer questions that they have to get their answers, but we can kind of explain the questions so they can understand what they're being asked on that. Because I know we can't give answers to questions because we don't know them, or we're not them. But just walking through with them, if they need somebody to walk through, most of the time the websites are pretty self-explanatory. But if they do need the help and everything, I would be in there to help them and, just go through everything with them and explain the process to them if they need it.
That's it, ladies. Y'all did a great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all for coming. Okay, that one's done. Next up, we got the Justice of the Peace. Now, I'm just going to say one thing. I know that incumbents usually do not like to have opponents. And, but regardless of who wins or loses, it, I think, helps make the person that will be sitting in that chair better every time. Because sometimes we all get, I wouldn't say stagnant, but, it just kind of helps you get to a place to where you're like, you know what? I remembered why I liked this job, or if you win again, or so. I just think it makes people better when you have a little bit of a challenge to say. So, first up, we have incumbent Angie Pippin, and then her opponent is Sepeda, And I'm going to let Angie introduce herself, and there we go.
Okay, I'm Angie Pippin. I have been your Justice of the Peace since August of 2016. I was appointed. I worked for the previous JP that was there, Tammy Morton. When Tammy passed away, then I was appointed JP. I've been JP ever since. I love the job. However, the job is demanding. It's 24/7. They're always on call. And it's surprising the things that are needed at 3 o'clock in the morning that you wouldn't think about. Everybody that comes into my office, I try to work with them in a way when they leave, they feel like they've been respected and they feel like that they've been heard. Most of the time, people that come in, that's simply what they want. They want to be heard. Once they're able to be heard and feel like they've been able to voice their opinion about it, they're good with whatever happens. But that's the main thing, is just learning to respect people and give them a chance to express their opinion and how they feel and give their side of the story.
Eli?
Hey, my name is Eli Sepeda. I've been born and raised in Fisher County all my life. I moved away for 1 year and decided to come right back. So I love Fisher County. I love the people of Fisher County. I graduated from Rotan and way back in 1980, where I've still talked to some of the friends and some of my classmates that I have from there. Then I worked here in Roby School for over 34 years. I've been the Roby mayor for about 19 years. I've been in the city politics for about 22 years. And during all that time, I've sought out people. I just love working with people. I just love going above and beyond what the calling of whatever might be, and just going a little bit beyond what is expected of me. So I've been telling people this. I respect Angie. And they've asked me, some people sometimes have tried to make me say, throw some dirt, and I said, no. I'm not running against Angie. I'm running for the office of Justice of the Peace to make it a little better. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. We have 3 questions for y'all.
Okay.
And we'll let Angie go first because she's the incumbent. A lot of people skip right past this race on the ballot. But the JP court is where you go if you get a traffic ticket, if your landlord tries to evict you, and if you have a dispute with someone over less than $20,000, right? Why should voters care about who sits in this chair?
Okay. Let's say that you're that person that got that ticket. Do you care who sits in that chair? Do you care if they listen to you when you walk in? Or do you want to just go in and pay your ticket and no discussion, no nothing, you're guilty the minute you're given that ticket? Because that's not always the case. That's the one thing we have to remember as judges. You're not guilty at first sight. You have a voice. You have a chance to represent your case. And we have to remember that. Sometimes it's hard because we trust our troopers. We trust our sheriff's office. We trust our game wardens. When they bring something into us, by God, it's concrete. No, that's not always the way it is. And they are very good to step back and say, yeah, I should have done that different. I can understand why you ruled on that way. When you come to small claims court, it's 2 people that are disagreeing on Sometimes it's a contract, sometimes it's a verbal agreement that they thought they had between themselves. And the most important thing to do is listen to both sides. Somebody's going to be right, somebody's going to be wrong. So it's just real important to know everything's not always black and white. Sometimes it is, and those are the easy ones when it's black and white. And there's a lot of other things we do in this court besides the small claims. We do debt claims. We do a ton of credit card cases. Sometimes those are black and white, sometimes those are not. Sometimes you have, most of those are large companies, large collection companies out of Houston, Austin, Fort Worth, Dallas, that are making collections for these cards that are not being paid for. Those all come to my court if they're less than $20,000 suit. Usually there's an outside attorney that comes that's representing those firms. And that's one of the cases that just scares people to death. They have no idea what to do. They know they owe somebody money, and they don't even know where to start. We have self-help packets for those guys to help them maneuver and walk through those processes.
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
So a lot of people skip right past this race on the ballot. It's usually a check off, but they don't really know exactly what the JP does. So, but the JP court is where you go if you get a traffic ticket, if your landlord tries to evict you, or if you have a dispute with someone over less than $20,000. Tell us why you think voters should care about who sits in this chair.
You've answered some of the questions yourself by saying what are some of the things that the JP does. Angie has answered some of the questions of what JP does. When I first was approached about 2 years ago to be asked to be the JP, I said, I'll think about it. And then after the second person asked me, I said, I'll pray about it. And then if more people came and asked me, are you running for JP, before I had even said anything, then I just kept praying. Just kept praying, and the Lord just never did remove it. He didn't tell me I was going to win. He didn't tell me I was going to lose. But he just never did remove that I needed to run. And I think the reason that I want to run is because of, I'm going to take it to prayer. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to take every case to prayer, and I'm going to listen to people. I'm going to respect the offices of our game wardens, of our DOTs, I'm going to respect those offices and really talk to them, have the communication with them, and know what the situation is. I know everything's not black and white. We live in a gray world right now. But we do know that we need to protect the people. That's what we're there for, justice of the peace. We need to protect the people that are sometimes being wronged by somebody doing something to their property or doing something that would endanger their children. So that's why I want to run for JP, to make a difference. I know that knowledge is there. You know, we need to have the knowledge. We need to know what's going on. But we need to have the passion. And if I'm not elected, I hope Angie gets that passion back to say, let's go. Let's do it. And then you have to have action. You have to have action. You can't have knowledge without passion, without action. Those three things go together, and that's what I want to bring to Fisher County. You mentioned that we're a kind of a community that's getting smaller and smaller. There's things happening all around us that it might get bigger and bigger all of a sudden. But we need to have that knowledge and that passion, that action to do something in this community. And I want to work with the people in the courthouse to do things that are beyond just the office of JP. But to put those things in action. So, yeah.
Okay. I just love how y'all answered that, because this next question. In a small county where everybody knows everybody, you're going to have cases involving your neighbors, maybe even your friends. How will you make sure people trust that you'll be fair even when it's uncomfortable? Which I know exactly that feeling.
You do have a lot of cases that are uncomfortable. Being a JP, especially on the civil side, not so much the criminal side, because those are mostly just Class C misdemeanors, citations, which that's not really that personal to people. So what? You know, they got a ticket. They'll come in, they'll take care of their ticket, and they're on their way. On the civil side, it gets a little more personal. When people are in debt, when they haven't paid somebody, or when you're spatting with your neighbor and you want to sue your neighbor, it gets a little more personal. And you have to be careful, because once you leave that office, your brain doesn't quit working. And you're thinking about this case and how you're going to handle it, where you need to go to look for the laws on this case. And you got to be careful. You got to keep your mouth shut. You can't talk to anybody about it, and you got to figure it out. And that's real important. People trusting you knowing their business and it staying right there. That takes a lot of trust. And I think that I handle that part very well. I see a lot of faces, and I don't. When I see your face, I don't think, oh gosh, oh yeah, they got a case in my court. That's not how I look at you. And I never ever want anybody that comes into my court to feel ashamed or feel like they've done something wrong. I always want to show them respect and let them know I'm there to help them. We'll get through it. The consequences may not be what you want it to be, but we'll get through it, and I will be there for you. Always.
Eli.
The Word of God tells us that we've been bought with a price, and that means everybody. Everybody is made in the image of God, so everybody has the same value. So we have to look at those situations just that way. And I know that we have to keep trust, not going around gossiping about what has gone into the courthouse or what we've heard. We know that. There has to be integrity. There has to be honesty. There has to be all these qualities that are needed for a justice of the peace or for a judge. I know that within the next year, we're going to have a new judge. We're going to have a new sheriff, and we're going to have a new precinct person. We don't know about the justice of the peace, but we know we're going to have new people. And having new people, I think we need to have new ideas to go forward and making this place a better place. Will you repeat the question just to make sure that I covered
Yes. How do you make sure that if you ever have cases involving your neighbors or even your friends, how do you make sure people trust that you'll be fair even when it's uncomfortable?
Kind of jokingly, but not really. I told my wife the other day, my mother-in-law is 87 years old. I said, I better hope she's not speeding. No, because I'm not going to play favorites just because. I think everybody needs a fair shake in everything that they do. And how do I make sure? We need to have that knowledge. I asked about 2 years ago, or maybe not quite that long, about a year ago, I asked the judge. I said, I'm thinking about running for JP. Do I need to go take classes right now? I said, I'll pay for them. I told him. And he said, no, once you're in here, then we'll send you to school. I don't know all the answers to that question, but I plan to find them out before I have a situation that I come up to. I'm not the incumbent. I'm a new person running. Ask me something about being a mayor, and I might be able to answer that, but not about JP right now.
Okay. Oh, we got those two. One more. Woohoo. We're nearly done. Small claims court is supposed to be a place where an ordinary person can resolve a dispute. a contractor who wasn't paid, a landlord-tenant conflict without a lawyer. How do you make sure your courtroom stays accessible to people who do not know the legal procedure? How do you walk people through that?
Okay, like I mentioned before, we do have self-help packets, and like Gina was talking about earlier, the Texas Law Help is really good for self-representative litigants. But at the same time, if it's not a jury trial, if it's just a bench trial, and we just have a plaintiff and a defendant there, I try to keep it very, very simple on layman's terms. However, if we go into a jury trial, that person, even though they're representing themselves, they have to know the laws. They have to follow the rules. They don't get second chances on that. If you're going to represent yourself in court, you still have to know the law. So it's just part of it. You can warn them, you can give them a little guidance, but you can't sit there and give them legal advice on how to handle their case.
Okay. This one, I'm going to ask you a completely different one.
Okay.
I think this is pretty good, considering. In a county with no medical examiner, the JP is the coroner, right? That means getting called out at any hour when there is an unattended death and making determinations. Have you, or how will you be able to handle dealing with that experience with the death investigation? I guess that's what.
Yeah.
And how will you prepare yourself for that responsibility of that part of it?
I know that it's got to be hard. Well, the reason I know that it's got to be hard because I've been a pastor for 11 years. I've had, not opportunities, that's a bad word for that, but I've been there when people have called me and said, my husband's dying, can you come and say the last prayer? And I've been there. My dad died in my arms. He had a heart attack, and I was there, and he died in my arms. I had to actually feel him as he went cold, and I was trying to call and called to see for the 911 and for the ambulance to show up. I've had those calls. I know how your heart beats anytime you're called after certain hours because you have to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning, at 12 o'clock in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning. I've been there. I've seen it. It's not easy. It's never easy, but I've done that as being a pastor.
That is it. Y'all did
Can
really
I
well.
add one more thing?
Sure.
Talking about inquests, just so you guys know the amount we work on. Since 2016, when I was appointed, I have done 101 inquests. And then we were talking about the population.
Mm-hmm.
84 of those inquests were Fisher County residents.
Mm.
So we have lost a lot of good people in Fisher County.
I have to say, this is all so interesting, and it's very hard for me not to interrupt and ask more questions because I'm like, wow, I did not know that. So I can't believe they made me ask the questions because I really want to keep going. So, but y'all did really well. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you.
tonight and answering the questions. I guess the judges. Yeah. All right. Judge guys. Judge candidates. Okay. That one. Judges. All right. Oh, I found my other Republican chair question. Dang. It was a really good one, too. Okay, we have 2 people running for judge tonight, or for this election. No incumbents. Judge Holt has decided to lay down the gavel. So we have Preston Martin and Ricky Spencer. And I am going to let y'all introduce yourselves. Who's first on the ballot?
I am.
Well, then I'm going to let you go first, because
Okay, I'm Preston Martin. I'm a 4th-generation farmer rancher from Fisher County. I've spent my whole life here, besides 3.5 years after school. My family has all been leaders of the community, and I just want to keep that going.
Ricky?
Okay. You just want an introduction, or you want to know why we were interested in the office?
Just introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Ricky Spencer, and we moved to Fisher County when I was 6 months old, I believe. I graduated from Roby High School in 1985. I went off to college at Charlton State. Went to work for the Extension Service after that, Texas Agricultural Extension Service. Kind of following my dad's footsteps. He was a longtime county agent here in Fisher County. And after about 4 or 5 years in the Extension Service, I went to work for a Dairy Queen franchisee, a large Dairy Queen franchisee that had 40 restaurants. And I worked for her for about 1.5 years. And then I had the opportunity to buy one of my own. And I took that opportunity. I've been a Dairy Queen franchisee for almost 30 years now. And we moved back to Fisher County so we could raise our son here. He's also a Roby High graduate. And I'm kind of getting to the age where I'm kind of downsizing my business interest, and I'm interested in, that's why I'm running for judge.
All right. Y'all ready?
Ready.
You excited? I am. So, Preston, you might know a little bit about this, considering. In 2014, voters approved this county's $6.7 million jail with 75% of the vote. Commissioners then spent nearly a decade underfunding its staff until it was decommissioned in December 2025. The building sits vacant. Do you believe the will of those voters was honored? And what would you have done differently?
No, I don't believe the will of the voters were honored. I think we all know what the problem was with the jail is we couldn't keep it fully staffed. And the main reason is because we're not competitive with our neighboring counties. And the only way we're ever going to be able to keep the jail fully staffed or our sheriff's department fully staffed is being more competitive with the pay for our law enforcement. And I'm always been a strong advocate for our law enforcement in Fisher County. And if I'm elected county judge, I'll do everything I can to support our law enforcement and give them the resources they need.
Do you need me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay. So in 2014, voters approved this county's $6.7 million jail with 75% vote. Commissioners Court then spent nearly a decade underfunding its staff until it was decommissioned in December 2025. The building sits vacant. Do you believe the will of those voters was honored? And what would you have done differently if you were in the judge's seat?
Oh, man. I'm going to kind of take this a different direction. And, you know, I'm not a expert on Texas jail standards or anything like that, and I'm not going to pretend that I am. But the jail was understaffed. There were several sheriffs that tried to keep it staffed, to keep the jail open. They weren't able to do that. And the problem there, as I see it, is I know that the people in the county, they voted for the bond, and they all want to see the jail open, kind of regardless of cost. And I love this county and the residents as much as anybody else, and I sympathize with them wanting to go in that direction. And if elected, I'll always support the will of the voters, but personally, you just can't keep throwing good money, after bad. You need 8 jailers, you have 7 jailers, and if the jail is depopulated with because you only have 7 jailers, you still got to keep paying those 7, and and then the taxes, I just
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm totally lost now because I was going to go in a different direction and I just couldn't get it done. But I understand what Preston is saying. You want to increase the pay so you can keep the jailers and keep the jail staffed. But, you increase pay, you increase taxes. Nobody wants a tax increase. They've already been taxed by the bond on the jail. And, you keep increasing the cost, and, it's just more taxes after more taxes. That the jail is still on the books for $500,000, even closed. So,
Yep.
And when it was open, it was on the books for $800,000. So,
Don't worry.
okay.
So, I don't know, y'all might have a really good idea, but the majority of the questions we received from people for the judge and the sheriff race are all about the jail. So, we had to figure out something to ask that wasn't about the jail because there's a lot more to this, correct? So I'm just going to throw this one in between. This one came from me. I have no problem telling anybody what question I'm curious about. People seem to misunderstand the position of judge. And so the county judge presides over commissioner court, but elected officials like the sheriff, the clerk, and the JP run their own office independently. You can't fire them or tell them what to do. How do you lead a county government full of people who do not answer to you?
First of all, I think you got to communicate clearly with them, and where you can understand what their needs are and their objectives are. And so if you understand what they need and their objectives are, and I think we can cut out a lot of arguments and discord in the courthouse. I think we need to work together, have more collaborative discussions to move forward with whatever budget item or anything else that they're needing to operate on.
Well, with respect and cooperation, you have to have an open form of communication. You have to treat them with respect and honor their position because they were elected as well. So I think it's a judge's, maybe not his obligation, but his responsibility to try to promote cooperation and respect inside the courthouse. So,
I just wanted to throw that one in there. Okay. Back to the jail. Fisher County has, I believe, around $8.5 million in the bank and earns significant interest income. Not really sure if that's still happening. The county also just approved a $6.5 million operating budget with a 5% raise for all employees and elected officials. As county judge, how do you decide when the county is keeping too much in reserves versus investing in services the public actually needs?
Well, on the part of what we owe for the county jail, when we did the bond, we got it at a pretty low interest rate. Then interest rates came up. So First Financial Bank gave us a very good bank bid. So we're making more money off of the money that we received for the bond than we're paying. So it makes sense not to pay it off at this time. But interest rates are starting to fall. And coming soon, Trump's wanting to lower them even further. So we're going to come in a position that we need to pay off the jail. As long as we're making money on it, there's no reason in doing it. But pretty soon it's going to become where we need to use some of these reserve funds we have to pay off the debt of the jail and move forward.
I totally agree. I know why they haven't paid off the jail. The interest income on the reserves are higher than what we're paying interest on the bond, or I say we, the county. And as Preston said, the interest rates are kind of starting to level up and to where that's not beneficial anymore. We've got, I think it's $8 million in reserve, and the payoff on the jail is about $4 million. If the interest on the jail starts cost us more than interest on the reserves are making, I would agree that we need to go ahead and pay off the jail. And that would take about half the reserve and leave us with about a $4 million reserve. And I honestly think that the county needs to have a reserve budget or reserve funds. And personally, I don't think $4 million is too high of a number for a county with this budget to have. It's about half of a fiscal year budget. So,
If you are elected as county judge, what is your plan, and will you do anything new while you are sitting in that seat?
What was that last sentence again?
What will you do new? What will you do differently?
Okay. My plan as county judge is to give our law enforcement more support. I'd like to see more boots on the street. The crime rate in Fisher County, it's low compared to other places, but still it's more than I'd like to have. And that is one thing I'd like to see done. If I was elected judge, I'd like to see more transparency. Also, I'd like to see more collaboration between the county emergency officials, fire department, schools. We're going to have more collaboration between all of our local governments and entities where we can perform better and do what's best for the citizens of Fisher County.
Could you repeat it?
What would you do differently what is your plan, and what will you do differently if you are elected as county judge?
As far as my plan, I would just, I would want to make sure that I was able to accomplish the goals of the county judge, number one. We would need, as the presiding officer over the commissioner's court, as Preston said, you need to foster cooperation amongst all the members of the court. You need to foster cooperation with the different department heads. I know most of them, and I look forward to working with them. And I do think there could be more cooperation there and more transparency within departments. I think the jail's to the point to where it would need to be paid off. Honestly, I don't know that either one of us will get that opportunity because there's almost another year of the setting judge there, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if the jail gets paid off before whoever was elected took office. And as far as supporting the law enforcement, more boots on the ground, I of course would support law enforcement also. The office is budgeted for more deputies than we have, so hopefully we could get some more deputies hired and get more boots on the ground. But I'm just looking forward to the opportunity.
Every year, it seems like there's an election. Everybody talks about transparency. And I talk a lot about accountability. How will you ensure that this county is held accountable to the citizens, and how will you show the citizens and the voters that you are being transparent?
First of all, my doors will always be open. Anybody ever got the issue or a question, you can come talk to me. I'll sit there and I'll listen to your concerns, and I'll see if we can't do something to resolve them. Also, for accountability, just like say on these new projects coming in to our community and stuff like that, we need to have more communication with the citizens about what's going on. It's like some of these projects that are going on now, they come in there and they ask us to give them a tax abatement. Well, they say, well, how much, it's like on this data center, how much water are you going to use? How much strain is it going to be on our electrical grid? Well, first thing you know, they're doubling the size of it, but that never does come back in front of the community. So they double the usage of their power grid or double the usage of our water, but the community never gets no input on that. Just a few officials do. But I think we need to be transparent with anything that goes on in Fisher County. Let the public have public meetings where they can voice their opinions on what they want instead of just what one or two elected officials want.
Can you hear it again?
We talk a lot about every election season. People talk about wanting to be more transparent, and I talk about a lot holding people accountable that are elected officials. How will you be able to provide that to the voters?
Well, I'll be accessible. The county judge is a full-time job, in my opinion. You need to keep set office hours, probably close to 40 hours a week or more, being in the office and accessible to the public. As far as the accountability, you do need the you do need the communication. You know, you preside over the commissioner's court, and you're the face that most of the county looks to. You know, you're there day in, day out. They're not. So if something goes south, you know, you're the face of the court, and you just have to be accessible, be willing to answer the questions that come in from the public
In the newspaper.
and the newspaper.
And the newspaper.
Yeah.
Y'all did so good. And that is the end of our judges section. Right? Yeah. We're here, Sheriff, we have one candidate here to answer some questions. I'm going to let him come up. Give me some water. I'm about to die. Oh. This does not mean you have my vote. But thank you.
Wasn't his idea.
Just a messenger.
I'm parched. We'll cut that out since we're not live. Okay. So we have two people running for our Fisher County Sheriff. We left this one to the end, as you all know why. This is a hot topic. We only had one elect to come tonight, and we do not have any incumbents. But the one candidate that is here is Brandon Arnold. And I'm going to just let him introduce himself and talk a little bit about who he is.
So my name is Brandon Arnold. I moved here with my family back in 1990. We live out in Macaulay. My parents, they farm and ranch out there. They've done that forever. My career has taken me to different towns around the state in law enforcement, and I decided I was ready to get back to the country, and so I moved back out to Macaulay.
Okay. Let's see. I should have numbered these. Oh, here we go. Ready? Okay. Fisher County has gone through at least 7 sheriffs in 10 years, which is the exact amount of time we have owned this newspaper. It's not our fault. And not one has completed a 4-year term since 2012. 2 resigned. 2 resigned on the same day? No. Yes? Anyway. You would think I would know that. Sometimes I don't read the newspaper. What is actually broken here, do you think? And why do you believe you will be the one to finally see it through?
So not having lived here during those years, I'm not exactly sure what the issues were at that time. As far as whether I believe I can see it through, now that I've moved back to Fisher County, I'm vested. Like I said, my family's here. So everything, as sheriff, anything that happens in the county, it would be personal, because it would be my responsibility to ensure the safety of all of our citizens.
What qualifies you to be the Fisher County Sheriff?
So I have over a decade of law enforcement experience. I currently possess a Master Peace Officer license, and I have been through what's called limit It's the Law Enforcement Management Institute of Texas. So lots of training and lots of experience.
What all kind of qualifications and training do you have?
Well, so I don't know how many thousands of hours I have, but it's anywhere from safe fit classes to, I possess a instructor certificate. I was a defensive tactics instructor, as a taser instructor, and then of course all the regulated classes by TCOL that you have to have every training cycle.
Okay. Next. What are your enforcement priorities for Fisher County? A rural area with low crime but persistent property theft and methamphetamine trafficking. Oh, wait. How many deputies do you need? And what does your deployment model look like?
Okay, that's a lot. So as far as our strategies, obviously if we're having some property theft, we're going to try to identify those hot spots and get deputies out there and just saturate the area. As far as how many deputies I need, I know we've been speaking about the data centers and all that. There's going to be more people here, and unfortunately with more people there's more crime. So we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there. I'd at least like to add one more deputy to currently what we have. What was the other part of that question?
Well, how many what does your deployment model look like? I don't really understand that question. I wasn't the one who wrote that one.
So as far as our deployment, I mean, obviously we want to be out and about in every community. With the data centers and things like that, there's going to be an uptick in traffic, which means there's going to be more speeders, more crashes, things like that. With what I intend to do is to have 2 officers on at least most of the day and night. But
oh, here we go. Where is it? So, the most recent sheriff appointment on December 31st, or was it January 1st? I don't remember. January. Went to a man with no prior peace officer's license and appointed because he had military experience and was willing to do the job. What does that say about the talent pipeline for this office, and what will you do to make sure Fisher County is a place qualified law enforcement officers actually want to work at?
I believe the judges' candidates kind of hit that on the nose as far as us being more competitive in pay, us having the equipment that we need so that our officers can safely do their jobs. I have about 4 deputies now that are ready to start with us day one if I'm elected, and all of them, with the exception of 1, have master peace officer licenses. So we'll be bringing in lots of training and lots of experience to the county.
We hear a lot about master peace officer's license. What exactly does that mean what is the stages of that?
So when you graduate the police academy, you're given a peace officer license, just a certificate, and then if you complete classes, you advance that proficiency. So it goes from just having your license to a basic, to a intermediate, an advanced, and then a master peace officer license, which is the highest certification you can have as a peace officer.
What all do you have to do to get a master's peace officer? Is it just so many hours of training, or?
It's a combination of hours of training and time served.
And you have 3 other deputies, is that what you said, that you wanted to bring on?
Then have master peace officer licenses, yes ma'am.
Cool. So, you've got to know, by the way, the questions have gone so far. The county just passed a $6.5 million budget with a 5% pay raise for employees and elected officials. as the county's largest department, the sheriff's office takes a big slice of that. And if you go through our archives, it is always a hot topic item during budget season. And from all the way back to the archives that we have, which is 1969, it is tradition that every commissioner's court has always wanted to cut the sheriff's department. What do you need in real numbers, if you've looked into the budgets and stuff, to run this office right? And how will you make that case in commissioner's court during budget season?
Well, not being familiar with the current numbers, I think making that case would start way before that with meeting with commissioners, having them come in our office and sitting down and explaining to them things that we need. A good motto for law enforcement, I believe, is do good work and go home safe, and you can't do that if you don't have the right equipment. So that's just going to be discussions that need to happen before budgets are actually finalized.
What is one of the hardest, what do you think is one of the hardest parts about being a small rural sheriff?
I'll echo what Ms. Pippin says. You know everybody, and you know everybody's business, and you know the bad stuff. And unfortunately, in this job, people don't call you when you're having a good day or when they're having a good day. So you just have to be able to deal with issues that arise with either strangers or people that you may know very well.
How well are you able to work with the coordinating of the volunteer fire departments? And so if like there's a fire or an accident, what all goes into coordinating everybody together?
If there's a fire or an accident, really law enforcement's job is to basically handle traffic and make the scene safe for the firefighters so that they can do their job.
Is there anything that you think people are mistaken when it comes to the sheriff position?
I wouldn't say mistaken. I think there's just a lot of things that law enforcement, but especially a sheriff's office, does as a whole that a lot of people aren't familiar with. I mean, it's everything from patrolling to arresting bad guys to taking care of stray animals to serving civil papers, and if a jail is involved, to maintaining a jail, the safety and security of a jail. So there's a lot for the sheriff and the sheriff's department to actually do.
If the judge or one of the commissioners comes to you, hopefully not more than one or two at a time due to, quorums, and says to you that they would really like to look into opening our county jail again, what is your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, I don't really get an opinion on that. If they tell me that we're going to open it and they decide to open it, all that I ask is that they give me the resources and the manpower to operate that jail efficiently.
Well, we received so many questions for the sheriff's department, so it was really hard to narrow it down. But most of them were all the same. So they were just kind of worded a little bit differently. Is there any plan that you have that would be, what is different? What do you plan to do differently than has been done here in the past?
I mean, I know that I've heard complaints about deputies not showing up to calls and things like that, and we want to make sure that we do that. Initially, I'm going to do an inventory of all the sheriff's office property and an inventory and audit of the evidence room. And other than that, just making sure we get out on patrol and handle our business.
I think that is all of them that we have. Yeah. Do you have any questions you would like to ask?
The sheriff is the last line of defense for the community because you're the closest elected official. There have been, with executive orders, which can be overturned, of course, there have been elective executive orders that have gone back and forth about gun control, gun confiscation, and resource confiscation in the event, worst case scenario event of a national disaster. Now, the way the world looks right now, this is something I do think. So my question to you is, number one, who are you answerable to besides the people who elect you? Number two, if for whatever remote reason some order was given to confiscate guns and or other resources for the good of the community, what would be your response?
Well, so as who I'm held accountable to, is, you're correct, is the people of Fisher County. As far as an executive order given to confiscate guns, I don't care if it comes from the federal government or wherever. If there's nothing statutorily in the state of Texas that prevents you from owning a firearm or possessing a firearm, then we're not in the business of helping federal agents disarm citizens.
Thank you.
Good question.
May I ask a question for Mr. Arnold here? I lived in Hamlin, and I had a main gas leak in my house, but I work in Fisher County. And I talked to Mr. Arnold, called 911, he refused to come out. Our mayor, Tucker T., told me that Mr. Arnold's excuse was he was not going to be like the Abilene police officer who went and got blown up. And you're talking about responding to calls. I was just curious, has something changed since you were in Hamlin to where now you're willing to make calls when there's an emergency like that? And when I spoke at the Hamlin Council meeting, you were given an opportunity to come back and you just put your head down and did not defend the refusal to answer to a big gas leak. And having family and working here and friends and family, I'm just concerned about your ability to actually go back to that call.
Sure. So law enforcement typically is not equipped to handle gas leaks. The fire department should have been called, as was Atmos. If the fire department responds and they decide that they need law enforcement assistance to help block off an area, then that's where we come into play and can block off that area.
I have a counter question to that. Which is, if you aren't qualified or aren't a part of the first line of defense when there is a gas leak, and she does call you, is it not your responsibility to then direct her towards the right people?
So the way our phone lines were set up there, it should have automatically transferred her to Jones County.
That's our intern building. Excellent follow-up.
Didn't know I was doing live questions.
Actually, I do have one more question.
Sure.
With the way the world is here lately, and the unfortunate distrust of law enforcement as a whole. If you are elected sheriff, what will you do to bring more awareness and community involvement with the law enforcement to make kids, you know, I don't know if y'all remember, but when I was a kid, we all played cops and robbers and stuff like that. And I was never scared or thought badly of law enforcement. What can you do to help bring a more positive image to the Fisher County Sheriff's Department?
Well, that's part of the goals coming into this, is to mend fences with the community, try to remove some of that discord that's between law enforcement and the citizens. To be honest, I'd like to see it how it was, you know, back when I was a baby cop and you could drive through neighborhoods and people were having barbecues and they'd flag you down and tell you to come get a plate. So I think we need more of that in the community, where we all just can sit and visit and get along and not bicker with each other.
If somebody comes and applies for a job to be a deputy, and they have a pretty good resume and application process, but they have some marks on their past record, how will you look into them and to figure out if they will be a good candidate as deputy? Or will you just automatically go with what is in their file?
No, so there's a pretty standardized way of doing the initial background stuff. And if that is revealed in that background process, then that's what you have interviews for. I mean, you bring people in and you talk to them. You want to find out why what happened or how it happened, because not all circumstances are the same.
I'm being told that I have to wrap it up. So thank you all for coming out and being here and asking questions, even the impromptu questions. We appreciate that. If there are any candidates feel like they would like to be able to explain more or put more out there, we'll be happy if y'all want to sit down with us and do like a one-on-one interview to put out before March 3rd election. Just holler at me and let me know if you want to explain more. And other than that, I know that all of these people that are running for office are more than welcoming to you asking questions to them. And I mean, they sure didn't mind when I called and started asking questions. I want to say thank you to our candidates for standing before this community tonight in this crowd. And I'm just blown away about everybody being here. I think this would be great if this would happen every time there's an election or a commissioner's court or a city council meeting or a school board meeting. It's a lot harder for people elected to positions to make big decisions when there's a lot of faces watching them in the room rather than online. So I want you to leave with a few honest words before you go home. This county has been through a great deal. We have watched 7 sheriffs come in and go in 10 years. We have watched a $6.7 million jail built with taxpayer dollars, approved by 75% of the voters of this county, sit empty while its debt continues to be paid by your money. We have watched decisions get made without the public being asked or by listening to really vague discussions in the courtroom. And we have watched officials respond to voter mandates with indifference. The Double Mountain Chronicle has reported on every bit of it, and we will continue to report on it. And I hope that you all continue to ask questions and have the courage to stand up in the public forum and send letters to the editor and just stay involved and stay engaged in what's going on, because it's your money that is providing all of this. And I know that they will all be watching y'all, and we will too, and asking questions and continuing to research laws, rules, and regulations. And that's all, folks.